And once she wrote the song, I don't think that's come up again. That was another thing that was beautiful in her actually writing the song and turning it into something. It's like she truly was able to get a lot of those emotions that she was bottling up just out, and she benefited from it. She clearly benefited from it.
Not to mention created new memories too around
Hmm.
creating a work of art with her family. What if we can use music's ability to elicit deep feelings as a way to process difficult emotions? On today's episode, Tanya, Michelle, and I are diving into music and emotional education. Many of us are taught to bury difficult emotions as a way to cope with them, but it's becoming more apparent all the time that emotion can lie stored in the body, causing various issues. In today's episode, we cover the physical experience of doing deep emotional work, the smart family writing music together as a way to help our children process difficult emotions, the superpowers of the perineum, creativity as a connection to the deeper parts of the soul, the small deaths that can happen when we stifle our creativity, and my experience with non-traditional music in an Ayuhausca ceremony, and even more. After we recorded this episode, Tanya and I recorded a music video as a celebration to a song that touched both of us dearly. The link to that song is in the show description. As always, if you find our content helpful, please share it with somebody you love. Thanks for playing along. Enjoy. Welcome to That's a Great Point, the attitude adjustment for your soul, where co-hosts Elena Doran, Michelle Albers, and Lee Smart discuss deep topics around a life well lived. Let's start the show. There's definitely a part of it where when you do the work, it primes the pump, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, without any kind of provoking, the work starts to do you right back. It's fucking wild how it happens. So it's like we do a lot of work, we do the emotional processing, we do the exercises, and it's like, okay, that was nice. And then all of a sudden, just out of random, out of nowhere, something will pop up. It'll run you over like a fucking truck. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, I've been doing the work.
Well, I mean, there was kind of a provoke, but was able to realize very quickly that that really wasn't it. Like I knew what I was upset about, I wasn't really upset about. And I knew it immediately.
Mm.
Um and as I was talking it out, uh Aaron says, what pretty much what is it you're getting at? What is it that's really bothering you?" And I was like, "I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out."
I don't think it comes from out of nowhere, though. I think when you decide to do the work, I feel like when we decide to do the work and then we actively like really choose it, there's a part of our, I don't know, this is not coming from a educated place. This is coming from an experience and like an intuitive how it feels to me right now place. But I feel like at some point there, when we really do the work and when we find like those safe spaces to do the work, like if you guys hold space for each other, I think there comes a point in choosing that work where our subconscious starts to actually feel safe and it's not just running in the background through the programming. It starts recognizing that we are actively choosing something different. And it's almost like everything comes forward. I think so much of I don't know, it's just an interesting, because I find it's often like when I have like my big weekends with people,
Mm-hmm.
they come in some kind of way, and then when they leave, they feel a whole different kind of way. And then when they step away from the weekend and outside of the community, then a whole bunch more kind of bubbles and surfaces, and it's a whole nother thing. And so it's like this series of That's why I'm always really careful to say, like, lean into your people. Don't leave here thinking you're alone again, because that's not how this works. I don't
Yeah.
know. I think it's a fascinating process when we really dive in.
Well, it's different than any other kind of learning that I've ever experienced in that, typically if you're going to learn physics, you sit down with a book and you do the exercises and you learn physics. The emotional work, you sit down, you do the exercises, and yeah, some of it starts to process it, some of it you start to understand, but then like days later, out of just the clear blue, something will set you off, and it just comes forth in a way that it's like, holy shit,
Hmm.
that work that I did is doing me all of a sudden.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's a completely different kind of thing than just like learning math or um whatever, you
Yeah, the work did me yesterday.
know. Me
How are you
too.
feeling today? Are you all right today?
Um, I mean, yeah, I'm all right. Um, I think I'm still ruminating, if
Mm,
that makes sense.
it does. I'm a ruminator.
But it's different than it was, is very different than it was yesterday.
Yeah. And are you all right is such a vague general question. I could probably ask that in a million different ways that are way better than that, but it was just a simple check-in.
Yeah.
I just finished reading the book Radical Wholeness, and near the end of the book, he starts to talk about how the whole book is basically the premise is we get stuck in our head and we've forgotten how to listen to our body.
Mhm.
Near the end of the book, he starts to talk about how we're out of touch with our pelvic bowl, and that's where all of our body sense needs to come from. So, and you really need to get in touch with your perineum. And once you get in touch with your perineum, then you can start to really understand what your body's telling you. So I started talking about my perineum sense is tingling. Um, and so I'm just taking it in so many different ways. So I want to ask you now, how's your perineum?
I feel like I need to respond to that blanket statement because I believe to dictate that it comes from one kind of place for every human is probably not fair or accurate necessarily. Not necessarily, I mean, maybe there's a lot of research and that is true, but I find in my own personal experience that where stuff shows up in my body varies.
Mhm.
But it will show up in my physical body, and I need to listen to all parts of that, including my perineum or perineum or however you say it.
Isn't that kind of a Thai massage thing too? Like different
Yeah,
different
and I'm
pressure
not touching
point.
the perineum. I'm not. But I can move energy throughout the body, or you can move energy throughout the body with a Thai massage.
Hmm.
And we move a lot of stuff without me touching any parts that are anywhere near there.
Are we doing each other a disservice by not stroking our taints? Just
To be fair, in the abdominal training, like the Chine Song, which is abdominal massage, there is a part in there where you like press your heel into that area to help them
mhm,
ground and release. Like that is actually part of the session. In Thailand, it's not here because here you get shut down for that stuff.
mhm, mhm.
Um, but in Thailand, it's not, I mean, it's not sexual. It's not considered taboo. It's part of the session and it's healing and, therapeutic, not anything else.
Yeah. Well, my inner adolescent is fully in charge right now.
Yeah.
And what does your inner adolescence perineum say?
I'm not even going to a sexual place. It's just, I think it's so funny how, um, I mean, really and truly, we can get in touch with every part of our body and have different feelings, different emotions, different, like a gut feeling is a great example that we can all get behind. And that intuitive sense behind the gut feeling is fucking powerful as fuck. But then to say something like that through my perineum is tingling or perineum or however you want to pronounce it, that shit's funny.
Well, and as a blanket statement, if you're just in conversation and someone says that, I'm going to be like, I think I'm going to need you to say more there because I'm unsure of this intent. You know, like I'm going to need to dive into that a little before I decide how I'm going to engage with this conversation or not.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
right now, where my mind is going is I'm thinking about a whole comic book series of uh, maybe we'll call it the Taint Twins, and all their superpowers come from their taint. Um, how far you want to go with this? I'm seeing both y'all like fuck you.
Well,
I'm not engaging.
I ain't ever heard nothing like that before.
I'm in my head going, let's shift gears and talk about music because I'm super excited about that.
What kind of music would go with the Taint Twins? Da 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 Taint Twins.
Hmm.
I don't know. I think we leave that to Lee's inner adolescent. He can write a song.
There you go. There you go. It'll have to be something whimsical, that's for sure. We
Yeah.
seemed excited about it. Michelle, what's coming to mind for you when we talk about music? Because I'm thinking specifically keeping it in the realm adjacent to emotional resilience or emotional processing, somewhere around there. What do you think?
Yeah, I just think it was surprising to me how much, because when we talk about what we're going to talk about, right? Like when we decide, oh, we're going to talk about music today, I start dropping into that and it just starts coming up intuitively and just in my daily life. And I start having remembrances and all the kind of stuff. And it was surprising to me, which is surprising that it was, but how much I actually use music as a tool for myself when I taught preschool, for my babies, for like it is an anchor or like a set to bring in, pick your thing, right? Whether it's support or like, I mean, because like there's just certain songs from my preschool teaching days that mean it's nap time, you know, and that's just where I go. I'm like, oh, nap time to be quiet, settle in, chill out, you know. I just find it fascinating how much, and then emotional. Yeah, it's amazing to me how much music matters to me and how much I've used it my entire life.
Well, I think we as an American society have cheapened music in a lot of ways because what you're talking about is music as ritual, and how many cultures across the planet have used music as ritual. Um, I mean, from funerals to weddings to you name it, birthdays, celebrations, and every single week in spiritual practices, there's music to be had. And it's such a way to get in touch with that which we cannot understand. There's a certain perineum sense that starts tingling when we start to talk about music. Oh, shit. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm trying
there's
to
so
hold
many
back a
ways.
little bit because I can dump right now. Um, so much of what I'm thinking, but leaving some room.
Where do you go with it, Tanya?
Um, I'm similar. Whenever I heard about the topic, a lot of things came to me. Um, as a young teen, throughout my teens, I used music a lot to, I would say, cope. Um, Listening to the same albums over and over again, to make me feel better. And as a classroom teacher, would almost always have music in the background when I wasn't actively teaching. And I felt like my classes flowed a little better whenever they just had that going on. Um, in my counseling office, I usually will have music going. It just kind of depends on the day and what all's happening. And I often find I get a positive response from that as well. And I'm just all the other ways we use music. It's hard to work out for me without some kind of music going on. often on our date nights when Lee and I are home alone, like our kids go spend the night somewhere and it's just us. We've gotten to where, I don't know, the last times I can even remember, instead of necessarily like watching a movie or something like that, we'll listen to music and eat and just hang out with the music in the background. And it sets a tone, right? Then it's very, it can be comforting, it can be motivating. Just it's lovely what all it can do. I also am trying to hold back a little because I feel like I could word vomit some more.
Stop holding back. No holding back. Let's go. I just, yeah, I mean, my brain goes in a million different places when we talk about music. And I think about like even from a spiritual practice, like I can still hear my grandmother singing hymns. There's certain hymns that I hear them and I start to cry. They just bring it to me. I can't help it, right? And it's
Mhm.
good. It's not bad. Or even like in my yoga training, the kirtan and just chants, even chanting Om, how much that vibration can move. I don't know. It's just
Mhm.
there's so many layers to it. But yeah, there's songs that I can't hear without it taking me to a place. There's songs that remind me of people that I just will turn off because I don't want to remember those experiences in my life.
Mhm.
I say people, experiences is probably a more accurate. It's just such a powerful, it's like smells, it can bring back an instant memory.
I have a specific example that's been really, really powerful for me in that 1998, I was 14. My uncle passed away due to a boat accident. He was 32 years old and he was a phenomenal individual. And at his funeral, I took responsibility for trying to comfort everybody else. I didn't allow myself to feel any of it. About 2 weeks later, I was in bed by myself listening to Pearl Jam's 10 album, and the song Black came on. I don't know if y'all are familiar with this song. I know you are, Tanya. But the song is so mournful in that it's about a lost love. And it was less about the words for me, but more about just the emotion conveyed through the sounds, that came through the energy of the sounds, and that Eddie Vedder's that his mournful voice took me to a place that I didn't want to go. Like I did not want to experience that sadness, that grief, everything that was there, and I broke in my bed alone that night. And it was more than 20 years before I allowed myself to listen to that song again because I did not want to feel those feelings again. And whenever I finally did listen to it more than 20 years later, it brought back all of it, every last bit. Like I was overcome with sadness and grief over my uncle's passing, which I thought I had put all that behind me. But I decided this time around, since I've been doing some of the emotional work, that I'm going to sit with it. I'm going to be with it, allow it to be. And I can listen to it now without it having that power over me. I can go there and it doesn't affect me to where I think about how if we don't allow ourselves to process the emotions, then to be with it, they have power over us. And to that, it can shut us down. But whenever we choose to be with it and choose to sit with it, we can go to a place that we can then choose our response to said emotions. And I was able to do that through just exposure therapy, and then learned how to play the song. So Tanya and I play and sing it on a regular basis now these days. And it has new meaning now too,
Yeah, that's
because
cool.
now it's shared memories between us and with our kids.
Yeah, that's so beautiful.
Mhm.
Well, and I think it's such a powerful distinction. Like what you first described was like a stuck emotion that there was an avoidance around. And
Absolutely.
then later it becomes like, so for me, when I say I can't hear certain songs, I hear my grandma singing them and it brings me to tears. It's not stuck. It's just like it feels good to feel it. It's like gratitude of remembrance of all of it, and it's like I love to pause and just be with that and allow, if I get moved to that place, to do that. That's like a flow, not a stuck. And I think it's interesting how like the emotions can be there and how we relate to them and engage with them. The music is the catalyst to pull them forward. And then how do we want to, dance with them, so to speak. And I just think it's such a powerful thing and such a beautiful thing. Like music can give you goosebumps. Like I'm remembering recently, Dan and I went to a concert with my former coworkers. I used to work at a music college, and there was a whole handful of them. But there's one girl who's a friend of mine. Well, they're all friends of mine, but this one girl in particular, we talk on the regular. And I said, I can't wait for you to hear her voice. And she started singing, and he looks at me and he goes, "Holy shit!" He
Mhm.
goes, "My whole body just got the goosebumps." I'm like, I know. I figured that might happen. And I'm like, but you can't describe that with words. You have to experience it.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be the words of the song either. Think about
Oh,
how listening to an orchestra play, how you can get that full body goosebump feeling, like it can move you in such a way that's just phenomenal, and it requires zero words. It's a powerful force, music.
Hmm. Well, there's a few songs that Leo play on guitar that when he switches, I'm not musically inclined. I don't know the technical term for it, but when he switches from one guitar sound to another, I'm like, that part, that's the part that I like in this song. I like what it does there.
I think that's so cool. Yeah, you have me reflecting on words in the music. I feel like for me, so often it's not about the words with music. I don't care about the words. I mean, sometimes
Yeah.
they're powerful and sure, but for the most
Mhm.
part, it's not the words that are moving me. It's the vibrations.
Mhm.
It's the sounds and
It's
Mm.
how,
always been that way for me, and that
yeah.
most of the music I listen to, you can't even understand the words.
Yeah, that's fair, me too. I remember as a kid, I wanted to buy, this is going to age me, but there was a cassette I wanted to buy. And my mom was having none of it because there were swear words. It was like she did not like the intent of any of it. There were words. And I go, Mom, I don't listen to the words. I don't even know what they're saying. I don't care about that. I like the music.
Mhm.
And she's like, well, I don't ever want to hear you saying this. I'm like, well, you're not going to because I don't listen to that part.
Mhm.
And it was just so funny because in my head, that I think that was a first realization of I don't care about the words.
Mhm.
I do. I think it's both for me. I think it's both. There's some that the music itself is so moving that it really doesn't matter what the words say. I do think I've listened to songs that the words were so god awful that I can't get past that, even for the music.
Mhm.
But I also think that there are artists that weave so much poetry into their songs. It's the opposite. I could care less what the sound behind it is. I just want to listen to that poetry in a different way.
That's
You have an
definitely.
example?
When I was younger, it was Ani DeFranco. I really enjoyed a lot of her music, and it wasn't as much about the music as it was about what she was saying.
I agree 100% about that. It's not about the music, because our music was terrible.
Stop it. Stop it.
Sometimes the words are the more powerful thing, but they don't have to be. Like, I wonder if I took some of the songs that are like, and I don't know, I'm not thinking of specific examples today at all. I'm just thinking about music as a whole and how it like moves me. But I think I could probably look at some words and be like, oh, that's why I love that song so much. Because the words match the music for me. They actually, but it's funny. So it's different. Some are more about the words, some are more about the music. But for me now, I feel like when I was in angst and pain and trauma, the words mattered more. And now they don't as much. I can find them beautiful, but they're like I looked for words that would pull me either out of or into the funk, so I could either like keep moving it or so I just could ignore it and numb out and not do that.
Hmm.
One of the beautiful pieces about music is that it covers the entire range of human emotion in one way, shape, or form. And it can make us feel like we're not alone in what we have going on inside of us. Like to go from sadness to angst to uh, happiness and joy or anger or whatever it is. So one of my major loves is heavy metal music. And a lot of people are like, oh, they're so angry. Why do you listen to that? They're so angry. But yet nobody ever goes, oh, you listen to R&B? You must be really horny, right? So it's like one emotion is not allowed to be, but the other one's widely accepted. But they're all there in music, all of them, in some way, shape, or form.
Well, and the other thing I love is music is such a deeply personal experience. What one song might bring out in one person could be completely opposite in another. And it's
Absolutely.
just like us. I think that's magical.
Mm,
Well, I think that's true for the same person can experience the same song in different ways depending on life experience.
mm.
Yeah.
Specific song for me, I'm thinking about is Pantera's A New Level. It's a new level of confidence and power, are the lyrics. But yet the way it's delivered, it's like this, fuck you, I'm taking what's mine, right? So there's this like anger and angst of I've been oppressed, I've been repressed for a long time, I've been abused, I've been neglected. And you know what? I'm not standing for it. I'm going to stand up. I'm going to come rise to a whole new level of power. Um, and that could be a freaking powerful message for somebody who's been held down or neglected or abused or whatever, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm thinking about music from a musician standpoint. Like I mean, I was in band, I played the flute, but I never wrote music or like you actually write music. Yes, Lee? Is that true? Tanya, do you as
Absolutely.
well? Do you write music as well?
No, not exactly.
She writes
I'm just curious.
vicariously through me.
I,
Yeah. Well, you
I,
participate, you guys create music together, but I'm talking about like actually composing a song, the song at like the musical notes and the words and. Does
Yeah.
that change stuff for you? Were you gonna say something, Tanya?
well, I'm smiling because I find it funny. We watched I Saw the Light, which was the Hank Williams movie just a few days ago. And I do this a lot where like we'll watch a movie and I'm like, I can do that. Well, at the end of the movie, I was like, I'm gonna write a song and Lee's gonna write the music for it. So it's funny timing that you asked that particular question because I was like, I'm gonna write a song
Mm,
and Lee's gonna write the music.
mm,
I hadn't even told him, like, this is news to him. He doesn't know that.
mhm. Sounds like fun. I mean, how different is that from what we already do to where I'm writing the music and I'm bouncing it off of you for feedback? Does this work well? Does this not? What would you like to hear in this particular part? Um, and we do write music together, even though I'm the one doing the technical part of it. We're still writing it together, right?
Good, we have that recorded, so I get royalties.
I mean, we are married. That's kind of, that's kind of implied in the contract, dear.
It was funny though. It was funny. Yeah, but no, it's cool. The song that our youngest recently wrote, that one
Hmm.
was really cool to work on because I think all of us I think all of us contributed in some form to that song, and it's just heartbreakingly beautiful. It was a beautiful song that she had sat down and written, and it was beautiful seeing us work together to bring it to life.
Yeah.
I think I had mentioned that song to you before, Michelle. I don't know if we mentioned it on the
Played it.
podcast though.
Yeah.
Um, it's the song that she wrote. It's called "It's Not Okay," and it's about her older sister going off, growing up and leaving us for a little while, and just how what DTK mentioned when we are children, we have to individuate, right? And she's doing so. And our youngest is not taking it very well. So it's not okay. It's not all right. It's not okay to hurt someone the way you hurt me. Um, so in her writing that song, it was her way of processing everything that she's going through. And because we had the opportunity to all write it together, she's not processing it all alone. Uh,
That's
Not
so
only
beautiful.
that, but I think there were a lot of times where she had, and I'm glad she was comfortable enough to have the conversations, but she had the conversations where she was visibly upset, um, multiple conversations like that. And once she wrote the song, I don't think that's come up again. So that was another thing that was beautiful in her actually writing the song and turning it into something. It's like she truly was able to get a lot of those emotions that she was bottling up just out, and she benefited from it. She clearly benefited from it.
Not to mention created new memories too around
Hmm.
creating a work of art with her family.
Yeah. Yeah.
It at least adds a layer of meaning, if not transforms the meaning.
Uh,
Yeah.
mhm. She reminds me of what Ken Mossman was telling us here recently, how he was told he's too sensitive. And I think if it wasn't for Ken Mossman sharing what he shared, over the years with me, that it might be easy for me to lean in on that with Brooke. Like, oh, you're too sensitive, suck it up. But instead, we've decided to take a completely different tact and allow her to be exactly who she is and to be heard, to be seen, and to allow her to process just the way she needs to process. I feel like it's a damn powerful thing.
Yeah, and how often do we feel uncomfortable when someone else in the room is messy? Quote unquote
Hmm.
messy.
Yep.
Like
Hmm.
someone else is feeling the feels, and we're just like, oh, we want to make it, especially if we love them deeply, right? Oh, we just
Hmm.
want to make it better. We want to fix it. We want to take it away. And it's like, but what if the most loving and kind thing you can do is to process it with them or to just hold the space so they can process it? But
Hmm.
what you just described is such a beautiful like vessel of support and love and compassion and even evolution and transformation. Like that's so amazing.
Yeah.
As I imagine it's confusing. And to be able to, for her to be able to put it into words and create a song out of it and then collectively do that, gosh, talk about connecting dots and,
Yeah.
you know, it's just amazing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I'm going back to you writing musically, and I'm
Hmm.
curious. I mean, I used to work in a music college, so I witnessed a lot of creativity and people dropping into their area of expertise and genius and all of that. And I'm just wondering, like, as a musician, when you write, is it like, is there a different intent with each piece that you do, or is it always kind of in the vein of, I'm writing this for my own healing, I'm writing this because I want it to be a big hit, I'm writing this because, like, what is that process like, you know?
It's a damn good question. And that most of the time, there is no intent. It just passes right through me. It's so weird to
That's goosebumps.
explain that phenomenon, but I'll sit down and I'll play and I'll just sing and play and I'll be practicing whatever it is that I'm practicing on the at that time, and somehow some way I'll just start to diddle around And it might just be a little seed of an idea. One or two little notes will pop out. I'm like, oh, that sounded pretty cool. And it might not go anywhere, but other times it'll start to morph into something that's just like, holy shit, what was that? I had one particular riff that I was messing with probably about 2 months ago. It came out. This one riff, I was on the porch where I was cooking, and it came out. I was like, that sounded really cool. I wonder if that's going to go anywhere. And it didn't for weeks and weeks and weeks. And then all of a sudden, another time, I was sitting down and just the rest of the pieces all fell into place. And now I have a new song that just, what was it, last week, Tanya, that I finally got the new one written?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's been an idea that's been in the background for at least a couple of months now, if
Yeah.
not
But when it came
longer.
together, it was like,
Right, right. So it was like it was just a bare little seed of an idea, and then nothing, 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 nothing. Boom! Then it was a song. That's typically how it works for me. I remember one time in particular, one of my songs that I wrote back in 2005. Hurricane Rita had just wiped out our hometown, and I was sitting on the back porch in Houston watching my youngest daughter. I mean, my oldest daughter. I'm sorry. She was, I don't know, two. No, wait, no. Yeah, yeah, it's about the same time frame. She would have been about 1 or 2 years old. I'm sitting on the porch and watching her play, and I was just ruminating on losing my hometown, losing my job, losing everything that I'd held dear to me, and having to completely uproot my life. Um, and a whole song came to me, just boom. And I called it the Hurricane Groove, but it was a song all about anger. Uh, and to this day, it's still one of my favorite ones to play because it grooves so hard, but yet it was a way for me to process all the anger that I was feeling over shit ain't going my way. Wah, wah. Right. So yeah, that's kind of what the process, and other times it's weird in that other times it is more of a logical process. I'm gonna put these notes together, and this is kind of how it fits together, and it I don't know. Sometimes it's work, sometimes it just flows through me, and the ones that flow through me are almost always better.
it sounds like in summary,
Go ahead.
you get a feeling in your perineum, and then in your words, you diddle a little, and eventually something comes out.
Hmm. Yep.
I was gonna say it feels like, I mean, it feels to me like you just described it. If you believe in a soul, that like when it just comes in, it's like the language of your soul.
Hmm.
And I got to watch a lot of musicians be on stage and do their thing. Like the place I worked had a lot of different events where they could kind of just shine and do their thing. And it was a learning experience, but it was also a entertaining experience. And it was just an experience in general. And sometimes I would watch them on stage and go, I feel like they're not in their body right now. Like I think they're playing from their soul. I don't even think they're here. Like they just seem like they're lost, but in a good way. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're present, like super present, but there's nothing logical about it. But then at the flip side of that, it was a music college, so they taught the students not just the fundamentals, but the technical, all the way up into expertise layer of education of how music works and different ways you can play with it. And I just find that such a beautiful like blend of you can get really logical and technical and make it like a really I want a challenging piece to play, and then you can get the downloaded, so to speak, like the spiritual essence of who you are coming out in a flow. I don't know, I just find that so fun, like it's just fascinating to me. But to watch it, to witness, like you can tell when someone's on stage when they are just or playing, doesn't matter, they don't have to be on stage, where you're like, oh, this is, you're not thinking about anything right now. You just are. You're being, not doing. But you are doing in your being, and it's amazing. So cool.
Yeah.
You know where that takes me? is in your description of that, it's watching somebody who is moved by the music and how you can almost see their soul, their passion come through, um, through dance, through movement, through whatever.
I think it's funny how what we know intuitively, science is just barely catching up to right now.
Mhm.
Because there are studies right now talking about what you just said, and that they're using musicians to study collective flow. So whenever it's an individual musician, it would just be like going into the flow state. But come to find out, a group of individuals can go into a flow state together, and they have no idea how it works. But it's fucking magic to watch it happen too. Then one of the things that you made me think about, I was actually thinking about just the other day, was how often people copycat that shit.
Mm.
And they see somebody else did something amazing, so they try to copycat it, and they go into it technical wise. They can play the same notes, they can play this all the same tones, but it doesn't have the same effect because they don't actually bring it forth from that authentic place of this is a piece of my soul, right?
Mm,
Yeah,
Uh,
because it's not theirs.
yeah, and it's just like I mentioned it a while ago in American society, how we cheapen music and how commercialized some of the music has become. And it exists as a way to try and leech people of their money. Right? We're just going to create some music because that's how we get paid, versus we're going to create music because that's what our soul is telling us that we need to do.
like following a
Yeah,
formula for success
right.
versus creating for the sake of creation.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, Michelle.
No, it's okay. I mean, this might be me bringing it into the doldrums for the rest of the world. For me, it's exciting. But I just think about like that is, I talk about this all the time and I think about it for myself all the time. And that is, have I made it mine? Like, is it your practice? Because we have these structures and these scaffoldings in the coaching world. Like, this is how we get to a place. But if you don't get to their unique place, which is different for everyone, even though we all have similarities in how we process and how we heal and how we do things, it's like that's it. It's like, are you the musician on stage playing from your logical mind, copycatting something that's not yours, or even creating something that's not yours? Or are you dropped into your soul knowing, I don't even know where this is coming from, but it's me?
Mm,
It's like, that's it. That's when we heal. That's when we find ourselves. That's when we do our magic. But that's fascinating to like, I've never really thought about it from that perspective, music and like finding ourselves.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'm thinking about another specific song example. Nine Inch Nails, Trent Reznor wrote a song called Hurt, and the original song was powerful. And then Johnny Cash got a hold of it, and he was feeling every ounce of it. I forget his wife's name, but
June Carter?
yeah, June Carter. Yeah, apparently, I think he had just lost her whenever he recorded Hurt. Um, and it was a cover song, but man, it hit in a way that he was there. It was coming from the depths of his soul. Uh, and Johnny Cash's version of Hurt is just one of the most powerful songs
Mm.
out there. It's just, you want to experience some deep sadness, go listen to that shit.
Yeah, I love that. Not the deep sadness. I mean, deep sadness too, but I just love the idea or considering, like to really be mindful and pull it to my forefront, considering like where is this coming from for me? Where is this coming from for in conversation? Not that it always has to be, like that deep, profound, soul moving thing, but just does it feel aligned and true for me? Or am I trying to fit into it? Because my pattern is to fit into a box. That has been my pattern my whole life. That was my conditioning and my programming and how I showed up in the world. And so to like this, I think it's why maybe it's this way for everyone, but it's really powerful for me when I see someone on a stage or in a conversation truly being
Mm.
them. It feels liberating, it feels safe, it feels kind. Even when it's messy, it doesn't feel like an obstacle. It just feels like it is. And that's very different than, I don't know. Now I'm going to a whole road. We'll just stop there.
I just had a thought. It hadn't fully coalesced yet, but I'm thinking about Kurt Cobain specifically, but he's not the only example of musicians that were very good at channeling what they were feeling. Hank Williams, we watched that movie. That was another great example. Hank Williams was also one that he could channel a level of darkness and sadness and grief and um, Kurt Cobain as well, and that it ate them up, absolutely ate them up, and they ended up turning to so many different avoidance mechanisms. Both of the men that I just mentioned were heavy addicts, and it's because the emotions that they were processing and displaying through their music they couldn't be with, so they tried to avoid them. So like, where does it become unhealthy? Because you know, processing emotions and being with them is very healthy, but there's a tipping point to where that darkness that it can eat us up in a way that leads to just self-destruction, right?
Yeah, I wonder if it's a tipping point or if it's that we haven't found the resources that actually support us.
Mhm.
Because I think to do it alone, I just really more and more don't believe we're meant to do it alone. And if you don't have anyone or anything that feels safe, then what?
Mhm. Yeah. I'm curious how much of it, like, there's so many questions I have about both of those gentlemen and possibly even like somebody like Jimi Hendrix or, how many musicians across the world self-destructed at, less than 30 years old. Um, how much of it was they had a darkness within them, and then all of a sudden they became famous and didn't feel worthy for that kind of admiration, and to be that revered and to feel so deeply inside that they go, why would anybody love me? Because I don't.
Mm.
And how much that also attributed to it, I don't know. I have quite a few thoughts going on around it without them being
Well,
fully formed.
I mean, this is a totally different perspective of that, but maybe had Nirvana never blown up the way it had, he wouldn't have had the resources to get so sucked into his addiction. You know, it might not be it might not just be, I think there's no doubt, like Kurt Cobain in particular. There was a lot of darkness. You watch documentaries about him, people who knew him well would agree to that. Um, but is it the darkness that consumed him, or the now I'm in a position of fame and power where I have easy access to these things that helped grow his addiction, which fed into the darkness more,
Yeah,
you
you
know?
just hinted at something I've said many times, in that people say power corrupts, and I don't believe that even for a second. Power and money amplify,
Mm.
not corrupt, but amplify. So if the corruption already exists, if the darkness already exists, then it amplifies it, right? There are plenty of examples of people out there with large amounts of money and power that do phenomenal, great things in the world.
Yeah, I think it's all layered and all we can do is hypothesize because you don't know unless it's you. But
Mhm.
I think it's fun or interesting to get curious about it because I think we can learn from others and their experiences as well. I
Mm.
think I've always found it it's not a fully formed thought or like I don't necessarily have words, but I've always been really curious, maybe not always, but I'm very curious about creatives.
Me
Like
too.
I feel like creatives um maybe don't have the same walls or blocks that others don't. And I think we're all creatives. So this is messy and this is why I don't talk about it because I don't have it like fully formed. But I find it interesting that creatives and even intuitives, I just wonder sometimes how much of that sort of thing that we have mislabeled or is misunderstood. And if we could just maybe pinpoint something with language that could be helpful. I don't know. I find a lot of similarities in like those two containers, creatives and intuitives, where there tends to be, at least they reveal more pain than people who don't identify as creatives or intuitives. And I find it fascinating. And I wonder a lot about what if there was a way to support sort of those identities, those qualities in a new and different way that would make changes. I don't know. Like I said, it's not fully formed and it's messy. I have a hard time putting language to it, but I get curious about it a lot, often.
So those people who maybe feel more deeply.
Yeah, but then don't know what to do with it, or
Mhm.
like their creative expression moves it, but then what? There's no support or container or like expertise to help them navigate it for themselves in a way that, because I think moving it is great. I think that's really powerful and can, but not if there's missing pieces in other areas where support is required. And I don't know. I'm curious about it. I think about it often.
Part of being a creative is being rebellious enough to not allow the teachings of society to turn you off. It's like I'm not going to play by all the rules that you've told me I'm supposed to play by. I'm not going to suppress these pieces of myself and play ball. I'm going to continue to do what I feel deep in my soul that I need to do. I could speak to this specifically in my own experience and how my dream was to be a rock star. I wanted so bad to create music and travel the country and perform that music. And then I started having children. It's like, okay, well, I have to button up. I have to be responsible. I have to be the provider. I'm gonna fit that role, and that doesn't allow me to have any other role in my life because I'm now shifting. I'm gonna be mature. I'm gonna cut that piece of myself off, and cutting that piece of myself off was a form of death to me. And I didn't even know it until I started to rekindle that love of the music and start to write music again and start to play music again. That's whenever I realized that, wow, this piece of me, I buried it. I killed it off, and doing so, I absolutely killed a piece of myself. And part of being a creative and sticking with it is not allowing that piece of yourself to die in favor of, oh, I have to be responsible. I have to fit the mold, right?
Yeah, and then over time, it sounds like you realize that both can be true. You can be responsible and creative.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's what a great point, Michelle.
The other thing I
Yeah.
noticed, and this is just a thing, and I've never actually like researched the data, but I noticed that a lot of times, like in movies or well, mostly movies is where I notice it. A lot of actors and actresses are left-handed.
I've noticed that too.
Some of the most creative people are left-handed.
I have
I
I have pointed that out before.
Okay. I'm like, because I don't know, I've never actually researched it but I just find like there's some times where I just go, I bet they're left-handed. Musicians,
Yeah.
right? Like at the college, there were so many that were, I'm just like, it's so fascinating to me.
I have I don't know when I picked up on that, but I was especially in movies because obviously that's the easiest to pick out. It's like, oh, look, another left-handed actor. Weird.
Yeah. I don't know.
A small piece of that is if the vast majority of people operate a certain way and you're naturally wired different, it forces you to be more creative more often to adapt to the way society is. I'm thinking specifically of really short people and how they have to be very, very creative in how they access upper shelves, so on and so forth, right? How they operate vehicles. I'm thinking about poor Brookie Poo and her short stack self.
Yeah.
But that, yeah. So, here's another great example. Somebody who's had limbs amputated and how they have to adapt to their environment in a completely different way, and it forces them to be more creative. And so that there's a little bit of that in there, right? There's other stuff too, but there's a little bit of I have to be creative to engage with my environment. So you practice creativity on a regular basis, and that practice then feeds into other areas.
Yeah. I also wonder how much of it has to do with the nurturing they get as a young person,
Mhm.
or I do feel like, um, totally anecdotally, but children of parents who are creative and allow their children to be creative, I find tend to raise more creative children. I mean, your mom is a perfect example, extremely creative woman, and she raised two extremely creative boys. Um, Correct me if I'm wrong, not necessarily because she was teaching you how to be creative, but she was allowing you to be, you know?
Yeah, part
She
of
gave
it
you the space
is
for that.
part of it is giving permission. The other part is practice. Like
Hmm.
this is what it looks like to be creative. And I'm sure there's some genetic component to it as well.
Maybe, but I think when children grow up in an environment that isn't more welcoming to the creative process, it's not that, I mean, I agree with you, Michelle. Everybody is creative in some fashion. But I think those children tend to grow up into people who are not as comfortable with it. And therefore, they're creative, but maybe they don't exactly know how to channel it or what to do with it.
Or even to have that permission to allow it to exist.
Yeah.
That's a key piece because how many people do you know that think it irresponsible to have any kind of artistry at all, any kind of creativity? It's not even allowed to exist because you got to fight for survival, right?
Hmm.
You got to put food on the table. You got to get to work.
I really believe creativity is the language of the soul. It's the way to the soul, but it doesn't have to be the stereotypic creative, right? It doesn't have to be art or poetry or music or right? It can be literally just doing something in a new and different way that is creative to you.
Hmm.
I just think
Yeah.
creativity is good for the soul.
Well, I mean, a huge piece of being an entrepreneur is being creative. If you want to be a really good entrepreneur, you have to be creative. I know what I tell my clients who are trying to start businesses is sometimes they get a little bit too creative and they're trying to fix problems before they exist. I said, your job as an entrepreneur is to create problems and then fix them. Because if you're always trying to fix problems before they exist, you just stay stuck in place.
Yeah, I don't call that creativity. I call that control.
Right?
You're trying to create or fix problems before they exist. That's a control thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think circling back to the point of music in other types of creation, I find I am more able to connect to that if I have music in the background.
Yeah. Sometimes I have moments. This isn't all the time because I'm with you. I like background music when I'm doing things, but I have moments where if I have music on, I actually get more focused on the music and I can't concentrate on what I'm doing because the music will pull me out of it because it's so powerful. Not always, but I do have pockets of time where that's a thing. I've never really paid attention to does it matter what kind of music? I don't think so. I think it's just sometimes the music is just like it just pulls me. It just pulls me to it and I can't focus on other things. And then there's other times the music brings me this calm and peace so that I can really drop in and focus in a really precise way. And
Hmm.
I really maybe kind of am curious about like why why is it different? Why is it sometimes one versus the other? I'll have to maybe notice that.
Maybe you need it.
Maybe, yeah, maybe I just need the music to maybe, yeah, maybe that's it. It just pulls me where I need to go. And sometimes that's deep focus, and sometimes it's like, hey, take a pause, take a breath, enjoy the music, let it take you somewhere. Yeah.
Thinking about something adjacent to that right now and how I can gauge where my nervous system's at based on my reaction to music. Specific example, if I find that some of my favorite music, heavy metal specifically, is grating on my nerves, then I know that I'm off balance. I know that I'm way too far off base, that I'm just way overstimulated or way overstressed. And it's a really clear indicator to me that I need to do some things to get back in balance, to get back to recovered. And it's funny is that I won't even consciously notice it. I'll just all of a sudden be listening to electronic dance music. And then I go, huh, I must be in that place again.
I have a similar thing with like sounds, music. If it grates on me in a way it doesn't normally, I'm like, oh, something's going, and this is my language, but something's going on with my throat chakra. Like my
Mm,
throat chakra is out of balance, and there's something I need to say that I haven't said, or I haven't been nurturing like that area. Because anything like hearing, listening, communicating is that. And so like I'll like specifically pinpoint it and go into that. All right, I need to ask myself about how I've been listening, how I've been communicating. What do I need? Do I
mm,
need to just shut up or do I need to speak up? Which is it?
mm.
Yeah.
Shut up or speak up.
Yeah, which is it?
The
I
toughest question.
gotta notice. The other thing I'm thinking about when we're talking about music and using it for a specific purpose is like when I taught preschool, the number of times, like when the kids were squirrely and just like, usually it was in the winter, it'd been cold for a long time. We haven't been able to get outside and they just get squirrely. It's like, we're having a dance party and I am going to play music that allows them to just wiggle it out. And like, that was the most fun, best way we could. Because the other option is like, what do you do? Plop them in front of a TV and have them watch a movie? That doesn't help. That just amplifies the fact that they're going to be squirrelier when it's over.
Hmm.
But if we can turn on some music and have a dance party, and then in the mornings we would start with there were a lot of like book stories, but they were with music. And then it was like a collective. The kids would chant like with it. It was almost like a combination of chanting and the storytelling and then music. And it was such a great way to get the kids to like sit down and connect with each other, but without having to like look them in the eye and be really connected. They can choose that later, but as a group, there were just so many ways we use music that I didn't really think about until we started talking about having this conversation. And then I was like, gosh, I have used music my entire
mm.
life.
Uh, Curious if
Crazy.
y'all can remember a specific instance of being deeply moved by a piece of music.
Oh, many. I think the times it surprises me the most is when I'm at a concert, like an orchestra concert,
Mm,
because there's no words there, but I will literally get the goosebumps and start to cry. And I
mm,
don't know where it's coming from. And that always surprises me because I'm like, what's this about?
mm.
I don't know. I definitely have felt extremely moved by music. Um, I don't know that I can think of a real specific example, though.
Hmm.
I don't know. I guess the thing that keeps popping up in my head is funerals. Like that's probably when I always find it the most moving. Or I guess some funerals, because I know sometimes funerals are just generic music that didn't necessarily mean anything. But then there are other funerals where you know, you know that song meant something either to the people who loved them or to that person themselves. And I always find that just like you feel it deep.
I already mentioned my Pearl Jam Black experience. I'm thinking about a specific time where I moved somebody else with music in a way that he didn't see coming. It's at an ayahuasca ceremony, and just me and this one guy, and he was both the shaman and a participant, and he had it all laid out. So we were in his RV in the desert in Arizona, full of ceremony. And we're at first it's all the traditional South American Peruvian chanting, the healing chants, and it was great. It was a phenomenal experience. But one of the things about ayahuasca that people who have been through many, many ceremonies seek is the purge. There's something about the purge that you purge certain emotions and certain difficulties, and you also purge whatever's inside of you. Um, and he was complaining. It's like, man, this has been a really great ceremony, but I haven't purged like I normally do, and I feel like something's missing. I said, all right, you up for an experiment? He said, sure. So we switched the music. I put on Thy Art is Murder, their song Reign of Darkness. A heavy, heavy song. One of the main lyrics in it is I am hell. But he delivers it in such a way that it just, woo, woo. It's a hell of a song. And he's, he started purging. And he said he purged like he never had before, ever. Um, so it was funny to me in that, different music absolutely can bring about some serious, serious stuff. Um, and then,
I guess funerals aside, I was deeply moved. Um I was proposed to with a song,
mm,
and that was pretty that was pretty swell when my fella did that.
That feels like the perfect bow on this episode.
I wrote the lyrics to that one on an envelope. We actually still have that in our closet.
Yep.
I did not write down the chord progression on that one though. I couldn't even tell you what I played.
I couldn't tell you
Well,
either,
soul
but
probably remembers.
Mm.
huh.
I said your soul probably remembers.
Mm.
Maybe. It's been a while.
I do remember one of the lyrics in there. I don't remember much about that song other than you said yes.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Did I say yes or did I just like
big ball of blubbering tears. Yeah. Yeah. Who'd have thunk it? I'm romantic. Certainly not me.
I think that was the first romantic thing you've ever done. You had ever done.
Bullshit. I told you mama to mind her own damn business.
That was so romantic.
Oh my gosh.
Mm. Yeah, I was thinking one specific lyric in there is you let me be me. And all these years later, how important that's been.
Ooh, I felt that in my perineum.
Okay. Tingly, tingly taints. That's it. I'm out. You two go play.
Yeehaw. Yep. My perineum sense is tingling. Any last words?
Thank you for having me. This has been a good conversation. I liked the music aspect.
Yeah, it was really cool to have you here. I love it. That's good. That's a good morning.
Okay. We're all out of words. Bye-bye. Love you.
Out of words. Bye-bye. Love you.
Thank you for listening to That's a Great Point with Elena Doran, Michelle Albers, and Lee Smart. To find out more about how we can serve you, check out our links in the show description. Thanks for playing along.